You can find me up in the club, bottle full of bub, love at the beer. I'm and having sex. I ain't into making love, so come give me a hug. What's going on, guys? RGT85 here, and today we're taking a look at Hitman 3, but specifically for the Nintendo Switch. Now, I completely forgot this game was coming out. There wasn't really a lot of buzz surrounding it, so hopefully this video will do better than some of the buzz surrounding this game. But this game released on the PlayStation variety of systems, Xbox, and PC, but the Nintendo Switch version of the game was obviously going to be something a bit unique. During the last Nintendo Direct Mini, we learned about 2 games coming to the Nintendo Switch via the cloud. Those games being, of course, Control and Hitman 3. So I completely forgot this game was coming out. I didn't even include it in my January Nintendo Switch games video, but it is here. And you know what? I was sort of intrigued by this game. I have not played a Hitman game in a very, very long time. So I was interested to see sort of how the series has progressed, and more specifically, how the Nintendo Switch version of the game works, considering it is done via the cloud. So it's kind of going to be a tale of 2 tapes. We're going to first talk about the actual core game itself, and then we're going to talk about the Nintendo Switch specific version of the game, since it is a cloud version of the game. So basically, the way that Hitman games work is you are put into an area, and then you have to eliminate certain targets within that area. And how you choose to do that is kind of up to you. You could do things like subdue people that are maybe more important, like this little waiter here. I could subdue him and then take his garb, and then people will think that I'm a waiter. Basically, though, you are trying to get to a main target. Now, I have not played a Hitman game since Hitman 2, the original Hitman 2, way back on the GameCube, and I'm kind of surprised that the gameplay really hasn't evolved all that much since the original Hitman 2, because it's really sort of the same thing. It almost feels like some of the animations for Agent 47 are like ripped straight out of the original games from the Hitman franchise. But I do think you do have a larger scope in which you could do things within this game as far as the areas are concerned, because when you're in these areas, like I said, you can see at the top of the screen, we have to eliminate these 2 main targets. But the way that you do that is very interesting, because there's also story missions that are within the levels themselves. So there's 6 main levels that you go into, and really you could sort of get through these levels very quickly if you just go and eliminate the targets in the fastest way possible. So theoretically speaking, you could finish this game pretty quickly. But the fact that you could do so much as far as the story missions are concerned, it really adds a whole nother layer of gameplay to the game, because the story missions are very interesting. I'll show you guys some story missions upcoming here, but I just wanted to basically show you guys some gameplay here. So right now we're trying to subdue some people. You could see here, you could do this little thing to where Hitman gets his little Hitman vision, and you could see things like guards, items you could pick up and whatnot. The red over there is one of our main targets. The Katahajime! All right, so we got caught, but we're still gonna do this anyways. So now we're gonna dress up as this dude. We're going to bring him into here and dump the body. You know, kind of like a Splinter Cell style of thing where you gotta hide the bodies and whatnot. So, you know, that's kind of cool. And now we are going to play it cool and just leave this area. So that's one of the main things you are doing in this game. You're constantly trying to figure out what areas you should go into. Some people are a little bit alerted. I don't like that. They're kind of on to me, I feel. And that's another sort of thing, is like, I feel like the AI in this game isn't super great. I'm playing on the professional difficulty right now, which is the middle difficulty. There is a higher difficulty and a lower difficulty, and it just seems like the AI just really isn't like super smart. Like, obviously I'm the guy who just took out these people, so why aren't you like, why aren't you coming after me super hard? The Katahajime! All right, so now we're going to take this dude's clothes, because event security can obviously get into more areas than a standard person could get into. So you sort of see how the gameplay works. You're basically just trying to constantly get different disguises so that you blend in better, so that you can access different areas and basically get to the targets as easy as possible. Now, one thing that is pretty cool is that some of these levels that you're in are so big that you actually... Now, one of the things that is cool about this game is the levels that you're in are so big that you're constantly sort of discovering new areas and new story missions within those areas. I've already beaten this level. This is actually the first level in the game, but I never got to this area. I never went to this area because I was just focused on the main mission at hand, which was taking out the characters. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of interesting things to see. Like, as you can see here, I've just discovered a new area, so I'm gaining XP. There are certain areas that you have to get into to sort of discover to unlock like everything within the level and whatnot. So I do think that that is a cool thing, and that is something that this game does very well, because the levels themselves are just very big and very varied as far as what you end up seeing and what you end up encountering within them. In this mission here, I'm basically going to this large estate to investigate what is going on. This lady here has basically faked her own death, but when I got to this mansion, her brother was actually dead, and so now I'm acting like a private investigator, solving the crime of her brother being dead, along with trying to kill her as well. So there's a lot of interesting layers to the levels, and I think that's one of the positives about this game, is the fact that there's so much to do within the levels that it really increases the replay value, because like I said, there are only 6 main story missions that you do, and you can get through them in about an hour and a half in your first playthrough. So really going back and revisiting these levels and seeing what these levels have to offer in terms of other things is really one of the fun things about the game. So we're just going to take out this lady right here. And now we're going to run. You'll never catch me! You'll never take me alive. I'm getting high with my 4-5. DJ Paul, baby. So we're going to climb out this window here, hopefully. Maybe. Yes, we made it. You know, and that's one thing that is definitely a bit lacking, is like the combat. It's obviously not the focus of the main game here, but you can have some sort of fun with it as far as how it works because of the variety of tools you have. You have different things like weapons. You can pick up different weapons. You can pick up melee weapons and huck them at people and knock them out. And of course, you have your basic guns. These guys are coming after me hard, so we're gonna shimmy along here. We're gonna just try to, let's scale it up. We can hop in this window because someone below me is trying to shoot me. Oh God, there's people in here. This isn't good. 47, no! All right, so I feel like we have a good grasp of what the game is all about. Hitman 3 is still a stealth game. It honestly plays a lot like the Hitman games I played back in the GameCube PS2 era, but the levels themselves are much larger. There's much more things to do as far as the story missions themselves are concerned, so I think that's a good thing. But now we have to focus on the Nintendo Switch specific version of the game, because this is a $60 cloud-based game, and we have to sort of decide whether or not it's worth that $60. Now you can see here, there are some very nice graphics. I don't think the Nintendo Switch could natively create a area such as this with the lighting and things like that, the rain effects, and I do think the game looks very good. One thing I was very interested in though was the fact that Nintendo Life actually made a video on this that I checked out, and they had some major performance issues with the game where the game would almost come to like a standstill as far as the performance and the frame rate was concerned, and there was massive audio glitches and whatnot, and that sort of made me curious about the Nintendo Switch version of the game. Now, I don't have the best internet in the world or anything like that, but I haven't experienced anything quite like that. Now, is it a completely smooth experience for me? No, it's not. I'll have a link to Nintendo Life's video in the description box down below, should you guys want to check that out after watching my video like 50 times. But I did not have any of these massive issues, and that's a problem that I have with cloud games in general, because your mileage is sort of going to vary as far as your particular experience is concerned with it, because of the fact that it is a cloud-based game, meaning that it's dependent on things like internet, it's dependent on things like your location, and that's kind of a problem to me. I know that it is one of the things that we know about the Switch version. You know, it was going to be a cloud version of the game, but still, it's kind of annoying that my experience might be completely different than your experience. Now, as far as things like performance is concerned, for the most part, I would say it's been pretty solid, but there are a few things that I definitely want to point out. Now, there is some input lag on the controls. Now, since this is a slower game, you know, like I'm just walking around right now, hanging out with some homeless folk. This lady's smoking a cigarette. I'm about to take out this dude because I want his sweet homeless gear. I'm sure it smells delicious. Let's take him out. Katazame! So if you happen to get into a firefight like I'm in right now, the control is very finicky. It's very particular. Now, the whole point of the game is to avoid getting into firefights, and I'm just going to kind of make a firefight happen here so you guys can sort of see, but the targeting is definitely a bit slow, and it really sort of takes you out of the gameplay experience, I feel, because of the fact that there is that minimal input lag. And that's a main thing with these games. Obviously you're not supposed to go in necessarily guns blazing or anything like that, but it's just, see how particular it is. Like, I'm not terrible at games, but the targeting it's not great in this game, and it's something that definitely holds the game back for me. I'm sure that the other versions of the game maybe feel a bit smoother as far as the targeting is concerned. Why did that guy, holy crap, that dude just took like 2 shots to the chest like it was absolutely nothing. But that's definitely a bit of a problem that I have with this game, is within the targeting for it. Now, like I said, it's not a bad game, and I think the Nintendo Switch version is okay, but is it necessarily worth $60? To me, I don't feel like it is. Now, the shortness of the game doesn't really turn me off as long as the game is fun, and I do think that for the most part the game is fun, but the fact that there's, oh my god, this isn't gonna end well for me. When Control came out on the Nintendo Switch, it was a discounted version of the game because the game had already released. But with this, it's a full $60, and I'm just not sure that it's worth that $60 because of the little hiccups and the little inconsistencies with the Nintendo Switch version of the game. Sure, the game does look really good, and the Nintendo Switch probably couldn't have done something like this natively as far as the density of people and the density of the areas is concerned, but maybe they could have tried to do something like that. Having to always have an online internet connection is a bit cumbersome, and the fact that your mileage is going to vary, your experience could vary very drastically compared to my experience with the game, is a bit off-putting. The weird thing to me is, though, it's still Hitman. Like I said, I haven't played a Hitman game in a very long time, yet it still feels pretty much the same like I remember it. So maybe it's a, if it's not broke, don't fix it situation, but I just felt like maybe the series would have evolved a bit more in terms of the gameplay. Like, some of the animations are still very stiff. Some of the, things that you do within the game still feel very sort of old school. It feels like maybe the Hitman franchise needs to sort of get into the more modern era, especially when you look at some games on the market that have so much better animations and things like that. I paid $60 for Hitman 3 on the Nintendo Switch, and I don't know, like, it's not bad. If I would have paid like $30 or $40 for this game, I would have been a lot more comfortable with it. I feel like I would have gotten a bit more for my value with this game. I don't think the core game is necessarily bad, and I think it's probably better on things like the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, but if you only own a Nintendo Switch, this is the only way to play this game, via the cloud, and I'm still not sold on cloud gaming. I still think that there are areas that need to be improved. Things like input lag are definitely somewhat prevalent in the game. You can feel it, and if you can feel it, that sort of becomes problematic in the gameplay itself. Since this game is a bit of a slower game, you might not notice it all that much, but if we are going towards this cloud-based future for the Nintendo Switch with bigger games like Hitman 3, they obviously need to work on some things such as the input lag. And like I said, who knows, maybe there are people that have zero input lag with this game, or maybe there are other people out there who are having issues like the Nintendo Life video had. So it's a mixed bag. Those are my thoughts on Hitman 3, though. If I would have paid $30 or $40 for it, I think I would have been a bit happier with it. I think you guys should wait for a sale if you're planning on picking up Hitman 3, unless you're just a diehard Hitman fan and you're really craving a stealth game, although there are a lot of good games coming out in the month of February for the Nintendo Switch, so you might want to save your money. As always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Be sure to check out other videos on the channel. Like I said, I do have that Nintendo Life video in the comments section, or in the description box down below, should you guys want to check out their video, because I used a little bit of their footage from them. So make sure you guys check that out after watching this video like 100 more times. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.